Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, an appropriate and respectful amount of concentration on the Beavers.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again. And on today's episode, we'll get to something taking place within the Big 12 Conference that is, as far as I can tell, unprecedented as it relates to officiating transparency. Interesting story breaking out this week we'll get to before we are out of here today. But in general, Chris, this is a concentrate on the Beavers kind of episode. I'm just going to admit, as a Red Raider fan, I've probably been overlooking these guys a little bit here this week, distracted by shiny objects near and far. But the Oregon State Beavers do fit the description of the next potential victim. Non-conference finale, 2:30 Saturday at the Jones. Not riding a hot streak like Kent State was, which you extinguished coming into town, but riding what has been an interesting experience so far this season. Red Raiders opening up as about a 21.5-point favorite to begin the week. I want to get to what was an interesting week 2 experience for their head coach, Trent Bray, in just a moment, and some sound from him. But, Chris, I'm kind of curious, as it might relate to overlooking Oregon State possibly. Roster-wise, what type of progression are we in for here as it would compare to, obviously, UAPB or Kent State over the last couple of weeks? It's only recently they were relegated to a non-sort of Power 4 category. Previously, obviously, in the former Pac-12 as we knew it. So what do you think personnel-wise we're in for as far as, I guess, a trend upward this week?
I mean, obviously, Vegas thinks substantially so compared to what to what you've seen in the first 2 weeks. And this is an Oregon State program that won 10 games 4 years ago. They were 10-3. The year after that, they won 8. But that was really when a lot of this realignment stuff was going on. And then their head coach at the time, Jonathan Smith, left to go take the Michigan State job. I don't think he wanted to leave, but I think it was just like, man, this is not even going to be the same job that I have now because of funding and conference affiliation, and you weren't even sure what the Pac-12 was going to look like. And now they've been able to put a different version of the Mountain West or the WAC together and kind of call it the Pac-12 and all that and everything. But Trent Bray has been a guy that has been there for several years on and on, or off and on as a member of the staff. But I would say that he was kind of the internal candidate, but I would say personnel-wise, their athletes are going to look better. They do have better athletes. There's no doubt. I mean, in fact, I would tell you that there's a receiver on their roster. Well, there's a couple things with their receivers. One of their receivers is a last name Volson. He would be the older brother of your Volson. And then there's another receiver named Trent Walker that I would have said to you, had he ever entered into the portal, like in the spring, I think that you would have, or really, I guess December too. I think that would have been somebody that you would have taken a long, hard look at. He's a Coy Aiken type, plays hard, catches everything thrown his way, very experienced. And so they've got, and then Malik Murphy, you'll see this in person. He's about 6'5", 230. He started out at Texas, and he looks like he's going to look like Vince Young. Like, oh my gosh. Now, he's not Vince Young. He doesn't run like that or anything close to it. He doesn't really scramble at all. He throws it to the other team too much. But he's got a cannon. And so, yeah, there's some athletes that are mixed in here for sure. But they've got plenty of problems and issues too, as you'll hear the head coach kind of talk about on our lovely show here. But the level of athlete will because Kent State visibly looked a lot better than UAPB did. Okay, they just there's a lot that it takes for a football team to be a good team. Looking the part is one thing, but like executing and consistency and scheme, there's just a million things going on. But I would tell you that Kent State looked better. But now this is another step up, and your team knows this. Your team knows this, and I think that they absolutely know that this is a really, when this game was scheduled, this was a Power 5 program, and there's so many guys on your team that have never experienced like an undefeated non-conference portion of your schedule. Anybody that's been part of Joey's tenure here that's on this program, they've all lost at least one. Washington State or going to Wyoming or going to NC State. I mean, there's always been one loss in the non-conference portion of the schedule, and this is the year where that needs to stop.
So, how do you think this spins, sort of matchup wise? I kind of felt even foolish asking about potential matchups over the last couple of weeks. To suggest that something was going to be dictated to Texas Tech kind of seemed like a stretch. It may still seem like a stretch when you're talking about a 3 touchdown kind of difference from Vegas's perspective, but I don't know. I'm feeling like it's okay to assume that things will tighten up a little bit this week, and just the free reign garbage time, though we hope plenty of that still comes, I don't think it's just as assured as maybe as I was expecting over the first couple of weeks. So anything stand out to you from their roster as it relates to where Tech has been in some certain areas matchup wise?
Well, your guys are going to have to play into the second half this week, and maybe well into the second half. This has not happened yet. No. Now we're 2 games in. Skylar Gill Howard wins Defensive Player of the Week in the Big 12 Conference. He played 17 snaps. That
is an efficient Conference Player of the Week.
Right. And 19 miles an hour on his return, as we have since learned. This is an Oregon State team that will throw it a lot. They haven't run it very well. They're only averaging about 100 yards a game on the ground. They throw it a lot. Be interesting to see how their offensive line holds up against your pass rush, because your guys should have plenty of opportunities. And I think your DBs would tell you that they've been kind of bored through 2 weeks. Not a lot of chances. I think they would also say, I'm not complaining because we've been winning, but I'm not getting a lot of action. And so you get lulled, but that's what Oregon State's going to come in here and try to do. They're going to try to throw it. I mean, that's just really what their deal is going to be. So it's going to spread you out a little bit. It's going to give some opportunities for this week schematically, and next week are probably vastly different. This is a quarterback that wants to drop back and really throw it, and he maybe extend a play but not scramble to run, and he's got some good receivers. Whereas next week you're going to deal with a quarterback that scrambles in a lot of cases scrambles to run, and they're going to focus on their run game, and they lack receivers and explosive plays in the pass game. So opposites here in the coming weeks, but that's really what Oregon State, I think, will try to. This is what they are, unless they just come in and do something completely different, which I just don't.
Well, we have seen confirmed again, courtesy of the police blotter this week, idle hands make for the devil's workshop. So let's not keep these DBs bored for much longer, Chris. I'm curious defensively for Oregon State. It kind of seemed like personnel-wise, they had some interesting things going on of their own in the secondary. Players available or unavailable as it relates to civil litigation. Never a topic that you like to be discussing going into the season. I know their coach was asked about it and he was not commenting on it, but seems like within their secondary, they've got some interesting things going on as far as maybe who's out there or who's not.
Yeah, they've started, I think, 1 or 2 true freshmen at corner. And you're referring to Exodus Ayers, who was had a civil case. And I think that, you mentioned Bray asked about it. Yeah, we don't talk about player availability around here.
Should we pause for any Exodus puns? Would you like to take a moment, or just let everybody make their up on? Okay.
If you want. And having said that, we don't, on the contrary, like you mentioned that a while ago, we don't know ultimately like what the status would be of Amir Boyd on your roster with the donuts over at the Charlton or wherever that house is or whatever it's called.
And that's not an early morning gathering that he was taking part in. Well, that sort of was actually, but never mind. Get lost in the details.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything defensively. Like Joey will say this on, his coach's show tonight. He'll say it probably to me before the game and what we tape before the game. It's not about anything Oregon State. It's about what you're trying to do. And I think from like when you were asking me that, you want to see your run game get going a bit. We talked about patience in yesterday's show with your running backs. I think, let's see if that improves at all. And if they, if there's a little bit more explosiveness and some discipline shown that allows them to kind of get going. But the phase of this game that is wildly fascinating to me because
First, today's episode brought to you by DoorDash, and it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. This week for Texas Tech, it was the QB, Baron Morton, 16 for 18, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, only 1 hyperextended limb. You can't ask for much more than that. And just like Baron Morton delivered for the Red Raiders, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. And DoorDash Streaks, that's going to help you save every Saturday you order so you can stack it up all season long and wind up saving up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and keep the winning alive by fueling your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, promotional period through November 18th.
The phase of this game that is wildly fascinating to me because I think I say largely mixed bag, but I think it's been pretty good overall, is your special teams versus what they're doing, because that's really what caused the head coach to drop the F-bomb on TV and to just do his post-game press conference with his arms crossed, which was really bad body language. You're always taught that. Like, that's bad. I mean, you're sending off some vibes, even if you're not meaning to, the arms crossed. It's not
some vibes definitely coming across.
It's not portraying the right image, Coach.
Let's go ahead and take a listen to this, because if you hadn't seen it, let's let the people in on what we're talking about. And it does relate to something you were just touching on from Texas Tech's perspective, all about you. Not shooting your own toes off and things like that. And that seemed to be a similar theme when it comes to the week 2 experience for Oregon State head coach Trent Bray. Here he is in all his glory.
Today was just a calamity of self-inflicted wounds that we just couldn't recover from. Almost did, but couldn't.
We've allowed ourselves to create their success, both in special teams, joke, right? And then on big plays on defense, 2 long runs for touchdowns that shouldn't exist. They did nothing to harm us. We got to stop killing ourselves.
Outperformed them in every category except one. And when that's the only one that matters. I let my frustration at halftime. Apologize for my language, but frustrated because we gave them the game. I mean, we spotted them 21 points on blunders that it's just frustrating to see. And it's frustrating because the guys put in the work to perform and to lose this way for the second week in a row is frustrating.
I'd say the frustration is palpable, Chris. Taking loss number 2 so far. As many tries.
I got home from the Jones the other day, and I've, like a sicko, I think I mentioned this to you, I flipped over to this game and I heard him drop this on there. Called my wife in the room and I said, did that really just happen? Like, and then we rewound it, and I'm like, no, it did. I mean, you can't. And then the best one was when the offensive lineman's walking by the official calling it number 64, who was called for holding, and he drops the same word, and the TV guy goes, "That seems to be the common theme around here today." And I just was like, this is all just so great. For Oregon State and Fresno State to be so wildly entertaining, I'm just clearly sick and twisted, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Look, they've lost 8 of their last 9 games. There are people that in Corvallis that feel like Coach Bray is in over his head, and there's just all the sharks swimming in the tank there, kind of feeling like, okay, this is a matter of time. This isn't going well. I mean, they play Oregon next, and they play Houston. Which is funny is you've got this little 3-way dance going with you and Oregon State and Houston, because you play them this weekend, and then the weekend that you're off, your bye week, Oregon State will host Houston, and then you'll play Houston the following weekend. So there'll be some film that I'm guessing you can kind of do some comparisons with. But yeah, they're special teams. They had 6 false start penalties last week. 6.
No wonder his arms are crossed.
Their deep snapper broke his hand, and I think either in preseason camp or in the first game, so he's out. And so they used the guy that was the deep snapper last week in the game, and it was a variety of mixed results. And so
I think he said a calamity, Chris.
yeah, and I think I heard the term headspace. Yeah, he's going to have to do it. It's a headspace thing. We'll get him right.
Yeesh.
So I don't know what to expect because you had a soccer punt that was ran back for a touchdown. You had a pick six that ended the game by the backup quarterback. So there's just a lot going on here. And it's probably going to be really good for them in some ways to get out of town and go on the road. I do think you'll get a motivated team. I don't know how well connected they'll be. Are they about to fall apart? Are you just going to run over them, or will you get a really good fight from a really, what I guess now I would consider a group of 5 program that's got some pride to it and has had some big time alum that have played for it? You know, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I don't know if you want to mention your story on your favorite former Oregon State Beaver, but
why don't you lead with yours? Let's make some friends in Corvallis.
Well, I mean, think about it. Chad Johnson, TJ Hushmanzada, Brandon Cooks, Steven Jackson, Jacquizz Rogers. I mean, Derek Anderson, the quarterback. I mean, there's been some guys that have come through this thing that have played in the NFL and
mine, and Ontario, the Wizinator Smith.
Yes, there's your
Just
guy.
To complete the list.
Yeah, there's your guy. So, I just, I don't know. I don't really know what you'll get from them, but I do think you are preparing for a step up in competition. I think that you are anxious to play somebody that most of these kids can play and use on their video game, right? I don't know if UAPB is on the video game when you're playing college football. I don't even know if Kent State is. Maybe they are, but Oregon State definitely is, and it's funny because that's what some of the players were like. I mean, that's the only reason I know them is because you can play with them on EA Sports or whatever. So, there's all that. Yeah, this is.
Hey, hold on. I got to fact check myself too, man. If we're making friends in Corvallis, I ain't gonna do it this way, blaming them for Oregon's troubles. Ontario, an Oregon Duck. That's my bad, Beavers. My bad. Not your problem. It's the state of Oregon's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Formerly you would have thought, okay, upgrade in non-conference scheduling to a certain degree. Even given that maybe they'd been on a downswing program wise, it's one that clearly had played plenty of competitive and then some football in its history, but unfortunate for them, obviously in Washington State being in the position that they were to suffer that. And we kind of get that experience, I guess, a couple times around non-conference wise, but hopefully this one goes better than that.
And I mean, first of all, you're going to go to Corvallis next year. So this is a return trip next year. This is what, I've never been to Corvallis, Oregon. I don't even know if I've been to the state of Oregon, but I'm about to find out in early or I guess in September of 2026. But I think that's a good point to make when you mention the Washington State component there. Now, I don't think they've got John Mateer at quarterback because I think you're seeing that John Mateer may be like a Heisman Trophy candidate this year playing for Oklahoma. But
it wasn't just us.
No.
It made him look that way.
No, it wasn't. That's the game that Taj didn't play in. But it's worth mentioning. These were the two that were left out, and then there's some similarities here. These are proud blue collar type teams from these outposts, if you will, from these beautiful places. There's just not a lot of population and all that, but they've had players come through there. They've had successful. I mean, they've had 2 10-win seasons since 2006. Now, there's been plenty of seasons where they've been really bad too. And I think that their fan base is them. They were booing them last week.
Oh,
so
no.
But Trent Bray was kind of one of their own. he was a graduate assistant. Then he was the DC. And then when Jonathan Smith left, it's like he was the promoted guy. He's either going to be the right guy for the job, or as some are saying, he's in over his head, whatever. But he's passionate. We know that. He's very passionate.
He is very passionate and very frustrated. Come on, Beaver Nation. Don't get down on your boys. You're better than that. Who do you think you are, Utah? All right, Chris, before we get out of here, we've got to get to an interesting story in the Big 12 Conference, because I feel like the word unprecedented can be used in relation to this. Maybe you can remind me of a time where a precedent was actually set, but if you are not seeing this yet, catch up now on the Big 12 Conference removing an officiating crew from an upcoming game assignment due to a... First, today's episode brought to you by Mazda, and Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. And you know, with Mazda, your family's safety is number one, and that's why Mazda's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anybody else. And Mazda offers more than safety with smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Play your props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered, and it's quick, easy, and secure every time. Ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. But if you are not seeing this yet, catch up now on the Big 12 Conference removing an officiating crew from an upcoming game assignment due to a rules violation in the Kansas-Missouri football game last weekend. As I understand it, some brief description of this: Missouri scores a TD, Kansas blocks the extra point, Missouri penalized for unsportsmanlike conduct, pushes the kickoff back instead of a proper place kick or drop kick. Per NCAA Football Rule 2, Section 16, Article 6, of course, the officials allowed Missouri to punt the kickoff, only legal after a safety. No idea what the process was, thought-wise or explanation, but this is really just more interesting to me from the conference angle on this, Chris. I know there's been talk and maybe some effort made at transparency. I was interested to see this come across. Has this ever happened before?
Okay, so yeah, to your rule, I think with the crew, like you're whenever it is a safety, you're allowed to you punt from the 20. So there's this penalty, and so they get it on the 20-yard line. And so Missouri, I think they just trot their punter out there and is like, hey man, this is worth the 20. So like what gives? And it was allowed to happen. I know that Texas Tech has been in communication with the Big 12 Conference about this, and just in general.
The transparency angle, or like
all the above,
yeah.
and the specifics of this particular ruling and all.
Oh,
the
really?
things.
Okay.
But yes. I think that, yeah, because this is pretty major, and I think that you're right, Cowan, in saying that unheard of is right, because this is very different than what we are used to. I think that the word was that was a very poorly officiated game in Columbia. I think that in a way this was the league saying, you guys didn't do a very good job. We're going to call you on this one thing because you just totally misapplied the rules, and we're going to sit you out. And it's not hard to go find out these guys' names and what crew this is and all those things, because they were very clearly scheduled to referee one of these games on Friday night, and now they have been pulled. And for the league to tell everybody that and let, whatever, I think is largely unheard of. Brett Yormark has been contacted by about and by various coaches and administrators since he took over about officiating needing to be better. We need a better process. We need more training. We need to pay these guys better so people will seek these jobs. We need more transparency, but that's what you're getting here. I applaud it. This is the first time officials get reprimanded or punished or taken off, whatever, all the time. I think, I don't know how normal it is, but I think it happens, but you just never hear about it. It's very under the radar. And I think that you run some risk of shaming these guys. We're like, man, do I really want something where I'm going to be like put in the limelight for the wrong reasons? But this is, Brett Yormark has to also do what's right and say, my constituents are clamoring for this. We need better processes. We also want to show the public that this isn't rigged. You know, like there's no shenanigans going on here. Like there will be actions taken. We're going to let you know about these actions. But again, I applaud it. I hope others follow suit because I think officials try to do a good job. Some are just terrible. Some are really good. And I try to point that out. I just like consistency. But like I think there's been things that have been done before where a league will say, invite the media that covers a certain league and say, hey, come officiate a spring game or come officiate a scrimmage. And we'll kind of like point out like how difficult this actually is, which again, it's transparency. And so some of that is like kind of opening up the eyes of the folks like us that talk about this. I think that's a good thing, but I also think it's a good thing for officials to be held accountable and for people to know that. And when there's too much on the line, Cowan,
100%, too much money. I mean,
this is big business. And when somebody misapplies the rules,
yeah,
I think there's got to be some consequences. But yeah, I think it's largely unheard of here that you got this from the Big 12. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, a free kick and the Missouri can't. Okay, what's going? Because what happened is that's the Big 12 road team, and typically in a inter cross conference game, that like in other words, this game for Texas Tech, it may be a quote unquote Pac-12 crew that's here. It may not be a Big 12 crew. Like when you played at Washington State last year, I'd be willing to bet you that was a Big 12 crew. That's typically how the contracts work, just to semi even it up or whatever. But yeah, this was a pleasant surprise.
I was wondering about your reaction to it, liking it or disliking it. There's a lot to consider. And Mike McCabe is the name that I'm seeing as far as the guy leading the crew. If you're worried about being exposed, don't screw things up, at least not to this extent. And that's why you got a crew. I mean, how difficult is it to allow something like this to happen? And however many of you are out there and involved, none of you know a safety didn't just happen. So that's kind of just crazy. I was wondering how often behind closed doors, I know there are reprimands or like gradings or whatever, but I wondered how often behind closed doors crews had actually been removed from like a subsequent assignment because of something that happened. And at the same time, while this is a pound of flesh, I think for fans to a degree, I'm also just wondering marketing wise for the Big 12 conference, what do we achieve? Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. So I'm still kind of curious on the jury being out on that part, maybe.
I think Brett Yormark we'll see if this continues. We'll see how much more of this we get. It's fascinating to me that you went through the whole, Ireland game, and then you went through the whole week one and nothing happened, but it was week two that where something reared its ugly head here. Will we get more of this? But I think Brett Yormark, generally speaking, will be applauded by this behavior. I know that this is something that head coaches and administrators have been clamoring for. Joey talks to me about it all the time on his show, and just wanting a better process. It's like, I like the tortilla thing, I think greatly frustrates him. And he's like, talk to me about it on either the first show or the second show. But he's like, you're telling me that that's going to come from like Las Colinas and like the league offices, that it's somebody's discretion. Oh, there's a tortilla on the field, and that's how they're going to do this. I mean, like, but yet when you pull, you hit Baron Morton low, or you pull Taj Brooks's face mask. Why doesn't Las Colinas see that?
Las Colinas in the bathroom.
Yeah,
taking a break.
which is because they call it the Rock. Whatever, I don't know. That's just like the headquarters. It's based in the Metroplex there in Las Colinas, there right outside of Irving. So, I don't know. I think this is a start, and I appreciate that. I would have liked the same sort of announcement played after the Houston Texas Tech basketball game last year. I think that would have been appropriate for.
Let's not go down memory lane with all of our grievances. We don't have enough time left in the day. 2006, Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah, I got you.
Red Raiders long. Yeah. How many entry? Randy Crystal's entire life. I mean,
but this is very clearly. It's very clearly though a modern Big 12 though. This is not Bob Bowlesby's Big 12 anymore. This is a Brett Yormark trying to and guess what they do in the NBA? I think that's also worth noting. He has this NBA background, right? And they have this report that comes out after these games. It's like a 2-minute report. I forget what they call it, but it will put somebody on blast and be like, we screwed this call up. It doesn't change the results of the game, but again, it's all out there for everybody to see. And I think this is a step in the right direction. So
maybe we're edging closer to another pipe dream of mine coming to fruition: post-game officiating press conferences, which, God bless you if anybody actually wants to hear more from an official. I'm thinking maybe take the mics away, but just like a representative. I just always thought, especially in the college game, 18 to 23-year-olds got to sit there at a microphone. And these other guys don't. They're just straight to the showers every once in a while, maybe a question worthy of asking. But we're getting this for now. So let us know what you think about it, what your reaction is to it, and good or bad for the league. So in the YouTube comments, let us know, or shoot us a text if you're a Matador Mobster. Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoyed it, and we're one step closer to wrapping this non-conference slate up. It's the Beavers on Saturday. We'll go mailbag mode next time we reconvene. Looking forward to it, man. We'll see you then.
Yeah, guns up, people. Keep hope alive. Be careful out there on social medias. You just never know what might be coming your way. I would say if you're out there looking for stuff, look at the open letter by my man Casey Cowan. That's well worth your time. From the desk of Coach Cowan.
Yes, in a statement. I hate for like an open letter invite maybe more conversation. No, it's over. It's a statement with finality.
That's
Thank
right,
you, Chris, for noticing. I appreciate your attention to this matter. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. And of course, get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the Everydayers for always riding along. And of course, the Matador Mob as well. Hit our show notes, find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.